And what you're seeing here is a mirage.
What you're seeing here is a mirage. Now that has become almost synonymous with flat Earth. There's a famous news reporter that said that he was showing footage of the skyline of Michigan. They've shown footage from Milwaukee and other places in the Midwest, and they're showing far distances that you shouldn't be able to see if the Earth was a sphere. You just shouldn't be able to see that far.
We typically would not be able to see this from the Lake Michigan shore. We talked about this last night. Conditions are right on the lake that we're actually seeing a mirage of the Chicago skyline. Very interesting. Here's what's happening. This is a good example of a superior mirage. So Joshua was on the Lake Michigan shore. He was looking towards the west, and Chicago's beyond the horizon. Should not be able to see it. However, with the right conditions, we have an inversion. We have cold air near the cold lake water and some relatively warmer air above it. This will bend the image of that skyline back towards the viewer. And so typically we would not be able to see this. This image would be viewable from much, much higher in the sky, up in space. But instead, we're able to see it on the Lake Michigan.
Now they admit that. Now flat earthers will explain this to you. It's called 8 inches per mile squared. For every inch of curvature, there's for every mile, there's 8 inches of curvature. So at 1 mile, it's 8 inches. At 2 miles, it's 32 inches. At 3 miles, it's 72 inches, and so on. At 70 miles, at 60 miles, at 30 miles, we shouldn't be able to see these far distances. Now, the news explains this as a mirage.
I have a rare view of Milwaukee for you. It comes from the other side of Lake Michigan. Now, check out this picture. It's of the city lights that were taken last Thursday night in Muskegon, Michigan, some 70 miles away from Milwaukee. So why does Milwaukee look so close? Well, scientists have a name for it, but it's best explained as simply a mirage.
It is cool. I know for Jesse.
That is amazing.
If Jesse Ritker were not off today, she would tell us the exact.
She'd have some more details on that, yes.
Now that's nicer and kinder and gentler than saying our curvature calculators are off. Mick West was a famous debunker. I don't even think he debunks flat Earth anymore because everybody kept sending him this footage and showing him that we just see way farther. And the debunkers can be very dishonest and very tricky. Now, the people, the meteorologists and the people in the news, they just say it's a mirage. They don't really explain to you what a mirage is. They just say it's air pressure and something to do with the heat, and it's just rare. And now it is rare to see that far as well. You don't see it very often. You do see far distances. People have recorded very far distances. And what you're seeing is the vanishing point of perspective. Aristotle said the boat went over the curvature. The boat went over, and that's why we don't see the boat anymore. And then flat earthers started pulling the boat back into view, and you could see the boat. This is crazy. They first told us you could see the curve, and they would show us GoPro images of this curve, and then we would show them flat horizon images, and then they said, "Oh, the boat goes over the curve," and then we brought the boat back in, the whole boat, and then they said, "Oh, you're not calculating it correctly." Okay, is what I'm seeing here a mirage? I don't think so. I think it's flat. I don't think it's that crazy either to say that it's flat. I don't think it's crazy to say that I'm seeing a flat horizon. That's not too crazy. People just don't want to accept that. The debunkers don't want to accept that. But I find it funny how they always say you can see the curve of the Earth, and then you show them a flat horizon. And then they say, oh, ships go over the horizon. And you bring the boat back into view. And then they say, oh, well, that's the curve. You can still see the curve where the horizon is beyond, because you can't see forever, and the um, zoom lens just makes it bigger. But the boat is there, and it didn't go over your curve. You can see it. Now you can't see forever, and you do see above the horizon. You see beyond the horizon, I guess. But the horizon line is straight and it is flat. That's the other thing. If you look to the left and you look to the right at all these images, you'll never see a curve. You'll never see it convey, and you'll never see it convex, unless it's with a fisheye lens from a GoPro camera. You just won't see that, and people have a really hard time with that. I argue with people on the internet about this all the time, and they can't seem to comprehend this. This is the proof for flat Earth. This debunks your globe. It really does. Motion was never proven. It just wasn't. It was a theory by Einstein. So there was an experiment called the Michelson-Morley failure. They spun it and then called it the Michelson-Morley experiment, and they said that it disproved ether. It didn't disprove ether. What it did is it shot light through these mirrors and then beamed the light back into one focal point. They looked at the light, and there should be two differentiations of the light, and there wasn't. There was only one. That means the Earth isn't spinning. They said the Earth's spin should show a change of the light, and it just doesn't. Now, you do see, when you look at clouds and you look at light with these interferometers, you do see the light drift. You do, but you don't see any differentiations in the speed. It has nothing to do with the curvature of the Earth. It has to do with the air moving. The light will move. They call it ether. Ether is just like the history of light in the air. But and then these arguments just go around and around and around. But it's on a flat plane. People can't seem to want to comprehend that. Now, I know NASA has pictures, and I know you believe those pictures, and I know there isn't proof that they're all CGI. They do admit that some of them are CGI. They admit that they're composite images. They look really fake. Just go look at them. Just go look at the satellite ones. Those are the fakest looking ones. I want you to look from the left to the right, and I want you to see how there's no curve. The word is called horizontal. It means horizontal line. When they brought in the heliocentric model, they didn't change the language. They didn't go from horizon to curvature curve. They didn't go from sea level to sea curve. They didn't change the language. They kept the language the same. The language we use is geocentric. And people can't seem to comprehend that. Your words should mimic your actions. They don't always. It's helpful when they do. But it is a horizontal line, and that's the word we use. If you ask a surveyor to survey straight lines to get a circle, he won't do it. He can't do it. The Suez Canal, bridges, tunnels, railroads, they all said we don't do that. Not only do we not do that, it's impossible. There's people out there measuring the air and trying to get circles. You use plane trigonometry to get your circle. You use plane trigonometry first. You use a plane. There's a famous experiment from a guy named Eratosthenes in like 500 BC. They say he saw the sun rays come down straight in one area, and then his friend somewhere else saw the sun rays come down at an angle. And he knew it was an angle because there was a stick there. And they act like it wasn't an experiment they set out to do. They act like, oh, he just ran into this experiment. He measured the angles. He did plane trigonometry because he knew the distance between Alexandria and the other town he was in, Aswan, in northern Egypt. And then they came up with 25,000 miles in circumference. And they act like this was just, like just normal, like it wasn't a big deal because they just knew the earth was curved. People always go, oh, you know it's curved, you know it's curved. You actually don't. Your senses actually tell you it's flat. When you just start looking at it, when you just start watching sunsets, you're just going to be like, yeah, the earth isn't moving. They're going to say, well, how do seasons work? Well, because of the sun. How does sunsets work? Because of the sun. Why does it fall off the horizon? Because it's falling out of your perspective. You just have to go through the two models. I had to relearn the heliocentric model when I found flat Earth. I was already a flat earther. I was in a moon hoax, then I was in a hollow Earth, and then when flat Earth came about, because I heard mainstream scientists say that there's no proof that the Earth was spinning, and then a bunch of flat Earth just took off. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. But I didn't know what heliocentrism was. I was like, oh, there's the spinning, I just went to the beach and just started watching sunsets. And I was like, well, I don't really know. It's a little complicated. Figure it out one day. And I have. And that's what I'm here to tell you guys about. There's no curve on the left. There's no curve on the right. We have to trust that it's a mirage. It's flat. It's land out of water. Everything moves around us, the sun, moon, and stars. We're the stationary fixed plane. There's a plane above us, plane below us, and it's flat Earth. It's not a mirage.
Photo from Grandmere State Park. This is from Joshua Nowicki. And what you're seeing here is a mirage. We typically would not be able to see this from the Lake Michigan shore. We talked about this last night. Conditions are right on the lake that we're actually seeing a mirage of the Chicago skyline. Very interesting. Here's what's happening. This is a good example of a superior mirage. So Joshua was on the Lake Michigan shore. He was looking towards the west, and Chicago's beyond the horizon. Should not be able to see it. However, with the right conditions, we have an inversion. We have cold air near the cold lake water and some relatively warmer air above it. This will bend the image of that skyline back towards the viewer. And so typically we would not be able to see this. This image would be viewable from much, much higher in the sky, up in space. But instead, we're able to see it on the Lake Michigan.
Oh, and if it was a mirage, wouldn't it be upside down? Wouldn't you see the buildings backwards? Wouldn't you see them upside down?